And I'm here to bring you another episode of Harmonic Habits. I've got a very special guest here today. She's been a Sunday school teacher for over 30 years. She's a published author, but not only that, a best-selling author internationally in 11, I think it's 11 different books. She is with Action Takers Publishing, and she's the one who helps authors craft their stories. So when people come into that company, she helps them write and refine and craft their stories so they can really express themselves to the world. I'm sure she has a lot to say for you, your organization, and your family. So stay tuned. Sally, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I've been, all of this started back in 2020 when, I looked in the mirror and realized that I was a mess and that I needed to start doing something different. And, I started by the one thing I knew I could control, which was my eating. And so I threw out all the snacks and started eating healthier. And that was during the lockdown, during the pandemic. And little by little, I just kept changing small little habits. And my whole life flipped around because of that.
Yeah. So it started with your eating. But what was the one thing that was like, I know you said you looked in your mirror and you're like, my life is a mess. But what was that thing that made you have the conviction to just give up all the crap food?
Yeah, well, I think it was, when the pandemic hit, we lost a huge client. And so I looked and realized, okay, financially, I'm a mess. I was emotionally a wreck. I looked in the mirror and I was like, physically, like what else is there? And I felt spiritually drained. And so it was just that. I think it was March 25th, and it was right when they had started like all the lockdown stuff. And I was like, you know what, if I keep going in this direction, I'm going to be in a downward spiral. I'm not going to be able to get back up.
Yeah.
So if I don't do something now, I'm going to get to the point where I'm not going to be able to get myself out of this. So I just made the decision, and I said, you know what, if I need to do something differently. And I started with my food. And then I started, I turned the television off and said, you know what, I'm not going to listen to any of this stuff. And I started reading self-help books. And so it was like it wasn't, all at once, but it was over a period of like 6 or 8 months where I started shifting one little thing every day, starting a gratitude journal, meditating before I got out of bed in the morning. And then while I went to bed at night. So it was adding those little things that completely changed my life, and taking online classes. And then I got into a group of people who were amazing, and I got offered the opportunity to write a collaboration book. And so my first collaboration book was called One Habit for Entrepreneurial Success. And I had taken an online class, and because of all of this changing that I was doing, I was pouring into me for the first time in my life. I was doing something for me because I was just at the time, I was just taking care of everybody else, taking care of my friends, taking care of my family, taking care of, my mom has Alzheimer's, and my dad had a heart attack. And so it was like, all right, I got to be the one to take care of everybody. And so as the oldest, and I'm the only girl, I kind of felt that pressure to do that. And so, I was like, all right, I need to do something differently. So I got into this group of people, and I wrote my chapter in this book, and we were all meeting in these Zoom rooms. And I quickly realized there was 150 highly successful people in this room. I mean, people who were multi-million-dollar business owners and actors and actresses, and me. And so I was like totally out of my element. So I was like, how can I leverage the situation? How can I love these people. I want to be a part of their world. And so I just reached out to every single one of them. I opened up the book, and I went into Facebook and found all of them and sent them Facebook friend requests and said, hey, we're in the same book together. A lot of them didn't accept my request. They're probably like, this loony woman is contacting me. But a lot of them did. And we became friends. And one of those people was Linda, and she owns Action Takers Publishing. And at the time, she was putting these books together. the same, the same type of books. And she asked me to be in the books that she was doing. And I was like, all right, I'm already in this. Let's do it.
All right. That sounds like a fabulous journey. And I mean, coming from 2020, where most people went into the pandemic and they went the other way, and you're like, no, my life is going to be destroyed. You had that recognition, but
Hmm.
taking one habit at a time and just bringing it in, that, like, obviously it's literally life changing. I mean, we attract who we are. So the fact that you ended up in that group in the first place, even though mentally you probably didn't feel you were there yet, but the fact that you had been changing habits brought
Hmm.
you to an elevated space to meet up with all those people. And then you took
Yeah.
action. So it's not a surprise that you completely aligned with everything that you've got going on right now. And congratulations, like 11 books.
Yeah. Yeah. And more on the way. I think I got 3 or 4 that are going to be out in the next 3 months. That, when you write a little piece of your story, you write one chapter, so what's nice about doing the collaboration books is you only write one chapter. So it doesn't feel as daunting as having to sit and write a whole book. And now I've got 11 chapters. I can just take all those chapters, put them together, and I have my own book, So over
Exactly.
the last 2 or 3 years, I've pretty much written my book. So that's what I'm planning on doing this year is bringing all the little pieces of my story, that I've written over the past 2 years and putting them together in my own book.
What are you going to call it?
The Self-Care Rock Star. So
Ooh.
it's all about, right, taking that step and doing the self-care, and and tapping into your spirituality and
Oh my
tapping
gosh,
into
that's
who you
huge.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have stepped away from that, and I've been, you mentioned I've been a Sunday school teacher for over 30 years, working with kids and teens. I developed a teen Bible study when my daughter was a teenager, and we went from 10 kids to 50 kids in a matter of 2 years. These kids they're hungry for this. They're hungry for it. And so, now I pretty much do just women's, your life changes, things happen, so I did the children for a long time. I was with the teens for a while, and now I'm kind of focused on the women, and mostly, women who are going through the empty nesters,
Mhm.
who are at that point where, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
My kids are grown, and they feel like they don't have that, that need anymore. And so they're really searching for their purpose. So those are the women that I'm working with. Excuse
Well,
me,
that
working.
makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because you yourself, you've always been somebody who put everybody else first, right? And then now you're caring for yourself. So the fact, like, you have kids, I'm assuming, or no?
Yeah, I have a daughter.
Okay, so you know what it's like. Is your daughter already gone? You're an empty
Yeah,
nester.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's
so you know what it's like, right?
exactly.
And I mean, we still have one at home. Well, we've got a couple here right now, 2 of the kids, but it's amazing because they can just grow up and go so fast. Like, you
Yeah.
think you're going to have them and they're going to be there a long time, and then suddenly it's just like, wow, where did they go?
Yeah.
And
I think your
it's a very
purpose
different feeling.
evolves. I think your purpose evolves over your life, so um and it is what you're going through at the time.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. I see some art in your background, by the way. I was
Yeah,
interested in that.
I teach paint, and I do like a paint nights with family and friends, and I also teach at a senior center here, a couple different senior centers here in town, where I go and teach acrylic art classes. So I
Nice.
have
Do you
my,
do that
my
online at
running.
all?
No, and see, that was something. This is one of my my favorites, my peacock.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
but yeah, that was something during the pandemic. That was another thing um, that kind of shook me. Was one of the things that I was going to do I was going to start doing these paint nights and making a business out of it. And so I had worked out a whole business plan, and I had a whole bunch of classes scheduled, and I had a big fundraiser planned, and then the pandemic hit and they all got canceled. And so that was kind of another thing that kind of like put me in that. And then I was trying to figure a way to do it online, and I wasn't tech savvy enough to get it to get it up online and to get people their supplies. And I was just overthinking it, and it was just too much at the
Yeah.
time. So,
That's a really valid point because a lot of people want to make changes, right? And the world has changed so much. Things are online now, and they're not equipped with the tech skills. They don't know who to ask. So many people are spending money and like hiring companies, but not getting the results and going into debt. I've gone through that. I'm kind of past that part now, but it's like, what would you recommend for somebody who's going through that? Because you solved your issue by just kind of working locally, but not everybody's in the same situation. So what would you recommend for people who are
yeah,
in that?
it's thinking outside the box and trying to come up with different solutions, and talking to people and finding out what other people are doing. And so, and that's what I was doing. I was reaching out to different people who I saw that were doing stuff and finding out what they were doing and how they were doing it. A lot of people will share with you, their tips and techniques if you call them and talk to them.
Yeah.
So it's that, reaching out to someone else, and just being willing to say, okay, this isn't working. What else can I try? Or
Yeah, exactly.
how can I do this differently? Or stepping outside, and trying to look at it from a different angle or a different perspective. How would a student look at this? How would a teacher look at this? How would, and so it's just trying to figure all that out.
Yeah. There's a book I read recently. It's called The Six Types of Genius. And what I discovered in that book is that I already knew we all had our innate types of genius, but this book helps see how everyone and everything fits together to know the exact genius that you're looking for instead of like the skill. Because I would always be like, oh, well, who can help me with that skill? And I was always like thinking about that. But there's certain people who are naturally like, they care about that kind of thing. So if you combine that type of genius with that skill, then
Yeah,
you'll have that person. I would look that up if anybody is interested in having like things work. Do you mind if I tell you a story really
sure.
short?
Yeah.
Okay. So my daughter, she likes to tell people what to do. Okay. And that didn't always sit well with me because I saw her as little Miss Bossy Pants and kind of couldn't figure out why she just always wanted to tell everybody what to do. And I saw it as her bossing people around. But there's actually a type of genius it's called galvanizing. And people can naturally see how to rally people up, organize them, put them in like have them do different things. Like when I'm sitting there and I'm trying to like tell everybody what to do, I get a little stressed out about it. Like I've always gotten a little stressed out about it. For her, it's so natural, right? So I told her, I said, well, maybe we're just like looking at this the wrong way. Maybe your skill can actually be used to help like all of these home projects and all these things get completed and really like have everybody work together. Get some communication training, combine that with that skill. And oh my gosh. She came home yesterday and she goes, Mom, she goes, I realized that you're right. And she goes, I didn't notice how much I tell everybody what to do at school. I'm always like having my friends get this and do that and bring everybody together. And she's like, I'm always doing it. And I was like, does that stress you out? And she's like, no, I feel good. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of these things people might find annoying might be our actual natural skills and learning how to work with them.
Yeah, it's finding that zone of genius. I see it with the kids, that I've over the years that I've dealt with, and everyone has, their own little strengths and their own little weaknesses, and it's just, in trying to pull those out of people. So I love that you did that, and that she responded to it. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it explains something like so I'm also an artist. And I do affirming arts, right? It's affirmations combined. Like there's no lines in these drawings, but they're really cool drawings. And I had this whole product line, but she was 7 years old and she was training the adults in quality control in this product line that I had. And I was just like, I looked at her and I was just amazed that my 7-year-old kid could just like be really meticulous and tell everybody how everything's done and follow through. And I was just like, that's amazing. Um, but it's that skill, and that's a practical area she got to use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell me a story like of your Sunday school teachings, not teachings, experience? One of your favorite ones, something that really lit you up.
Well, I can tell you, we did I started a teen Bible study. We had, when my daughter was sixth grade, a friend of mine said, you know what, let's do a Bible study. And it was an actual Bible study. It wasn't a youth group. And we started with her son and my daughter and a few of their friends. And we started bringing more and more kids in. Their parents were showing up, and we were getting the parents involved, and we were doing this. And we wound up growing that from 10 kids until 2 years later, we had over 50 kids coming every week on a Friday night, seventh and eighth graders. And if you know anything about seventh and eighth graders, you can't get them to do anything.
I've got one here.
Excited to be at a Bible study on a Friday night. And it was funny because that group of kids, the stuff that we went through, like one of the kids came in one week and said his parents were getting divorced. And the other kids were like, oh yeah, my parents have been divorced. Here, let me tell you what's going to happen, And then we had, the pastor came in and, she was talking to them. And so we had a whole thing on, we did like work 2 weeks on, dealing with divorce. And I think those kids were just needed that. And then another time, one of the kids came in and someone in his class had committed suicide at 13 years old, and he broke down. And so I looked at my friend, and her and I were dealing with it, and we're like, all right, well, let's do this, So and it was like those God moments that we just really picked those kids up. And it was funny because that group of kids went into, through middle school, their first year of high school. And then they that was it. And the next group of kids that came up, they didn't need us as much. And so all of a sudden, it just stopped. And we were trying to build it back up, and it wasn't happening. And I said, well, maybe we were meant to just be here for this group of kids, that this group of kids just needed exactly what we were offering. And so we had, and so for me, that was like my favorite part of doing what I did, knowing that, we developed this thing, we created it, and that group of kids went on to become now adults, because this was years ago, and that we helped them through that difficult time.
Yeah, it's amazing what we can do. I heard a song today, and it was like, if you just love somebody, and you'll be happy, right? Like, or make somebody else happy and you'll be happy, right? And it's an old song, never heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing what a difference we can make for people. And when we're really there and listening and being of support.
Yeah.
Like that kid's friend probably, or the person in their class probably didn't have to die, but was missing that kind of support, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it's not like the parents of that kid are bad parents. I mean, my kids have gone through that, and I'm so freaking grateful they're still here, right? It's just like, sometimes people don't know how to manage their stress or talk about difficult issues and things like that.
Right.
First off, 50 kids in a Bible study on a Friday night, that's freaking amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. What do you think?
We were shocked.
Yeah. What do you think was the thing that brought them? Because it's like everything's energy and we attract things, right? So
Yeah.
What did you guys do?
Well, what we did was because she had an older son. So we had the older son and his friends teaching the younger kids. And I would put all the Bible studies together. I would write them and give them to the teenagers, and the high schoolers would teach the middle schoolers. So I think the middle schoolers wanted to come because the high schoolers were fun, and they got to, hang out. And then we would do songs. We had someone who played the guitar, and we'd say, hey, bring your guitar next week and you can sing some songs with us. So they would bring the guitar, and then there was a piano in the room, and then one of the other kids started playing the piano, and one of them was on the guitar. So it was just such a fun atmosphere, but it was Bible based. So, when we would read the Bible, and we would talk about different things and different things that they were going through, and how, the stuff in the Bible was, they were going through the same thing, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. It was the same stuff that they were going through. So, I don't think a lot of them realized that. So I think that was it. It was making it fun for them, but also a learning and teaching experience. And that's
Yeah.
something, I've always, with my daughter, I've always been a teacher at heart, and trying to make it fun for the kids.
Oh yeah, I got it. I teach adults. Well, I teach adults and kids, and I always make sure that I bring some kind of element of fun, art and music, creativity, something.
Yeah.
Because having too much structure can get really constricting, but having too much flow, you're all over. So, having a balance is really, really great. Really, really
Exactly.
great. So at this point, would you consider yourself an influencer, Sally?
Oh, I mean, I'd like to think so. Doing the publishing the last 2 years has been a godsend, and doing what I do, it amazes me sometimes. Like, I'll have someone who will come in and book a time with me. They've decided they want to write a chapter in one of our books, and so they come in. And I had just a woman the other day, and she came in to my Zoom room, and she's like, I have no idea what I'm going to write about. I know, the book is called, that she signed up for, is called Never Give Up. And she's like, I know I have a never give up attitude, but I don't know what I'm going to write about. So I said, well, all right, tell me about, what you do. So she was telling me about what she did, and tell me a little bit about your family. So I said, you know what? You're amazing. You've done all of this great stuff. You've raised your children, you're homeschooling your younger ones now. You've got a marriage. You're doing a health thing. I said, you got to write about being persistent, and and so her and I went back and forth, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's exactly, what I need to write about. So we sat down and we did a little outline of what she's going to write. And she's, in the process of writing her chapter. But then I hang up, and I don't know. I'm like, all right, God, these ideas and these things come to me when I'm on these phone calls, and I'm able to pull these stories out of these people that I'm speaking with, and get them to open up. And I think it's just, like you said, my energy, and just loving what I do, and being able to connect with people, even just through these little Zoom meetings, or StreamYard things. Being able to connect and form relationships with people is so important.
It definitely is. Now, Sally, you said something that many people, okay, they don't see what they do as having enough value, right? They'll look at somebody like me, or somebody who's way more successful than me, and they judge themselves based on that. Or they look at somebody who has all of their stuff together, or who looks like they have all their stuff together, and they judge themselves on that. But like what you said about having the successful relationship, having raised children, having anything that has been important to you, having accomplished that is huge. That is, don't kid yourselves when you think that everybody who's super successful has it all together. No one I've ever met has it all together.
Yeah. It's funny because we did a book, Women in STEM, and it was all these doctors and success, these women who were in technology, and these brilliant women. And they would reach out to me to help them write their story. And I was like, oh my gosh, here's like these successful doctors and stuff, and they're coming to me about, how to craft their story. But I realized that, like we said earlier, we all have our zone of genius, and theirs may not be writing on a personal level.
Mhm.
Theirs is writing technical stuff. So writing their personal story was a struggle for them. So for me, I was able to help them. But getting on the Zoom calls with them, I was kind of taken aback at first, because I was like, oh geez, who are these people gonna be? Are they gonna, look down on me? And who am I? That whole, you know, um,
Yeah,
you know,
that they're giants and you're like this big.
but then when you get on and you meet them, you realize, like you said, they're just regular people. And they have stuff going on in their lives too. So I was able to pull those stories out of them, and I was able to get them to write their stories. So it's been an interesting experience in figuring that out, and figuring out my own self-worth, because I still struggle with that, and that whole, who am I to be doing this type thing, and the imposter syndrome. And so it's, stepping into your own zone of genius, stepping
Mhm.
into who you are, and what you want to become.
Yeah. How do you think that the educational system has contributed to that for people? It's like when we go into a system and we're all learning the same way, how do you think it helps or hinders our image of ourselves?
Yeah,
Like, does
I
it
don't know.
create the imposter syndrome or does it not?
It probably does. I mean, I think everyone has their own unique way of learning, and for a teacher to be able to see person as an individual, and as opposed to a collective. And that's kind of what the schools teach, is that everyone's kind of the same, and you're going to teach them all this way.
Yeah.
But realizing that, okay, this kid may need, is more visual, where this kid is more tactile, and this one is more auditory, and having stuff for each one, and figuring that out. And it's a lot of work for a
It's a
teacher.
lot of work for a teacher. That's where the gap is, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the
My
teacher,
daughter's a teacher. My daughter's a fifth grade teacher, so
yeah,
I know,
one person, all those kids, all their different types of geniuses, putting the lesson plans together and teaching it in all their different styles.
yeah,
Whew,
yeah.
I'm giving a lot of credit to teachers right now. Okay. Like
Exactly.
a lot
No,
of credit.
I agree. I agree. And it's, it's funny, because I taught Sunday school for 30 plus years, and my church is very small. So I would have to teach a class, and like, the only teacher for a long time. And I would have a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Mm,
And so I would have to put a lesson together, or two 5-year-olds, a 6-year-old, that all of them could relate to, and tell a story in a way that all of them were intrigued by it. And
yeah,
so I learned a lot doing that. And it's
I can
funny, because
tell.
I never realized, well, I never realized that I was learning too,
Yeah.
as I was teaching. So, after so many years, I had never, it was funny, because I had never gone to a Bible study. I had never attended a Bible study until until I started teaching the Bible studies, and for, 25 years. But when I went to my first one, they were talking about all this. I was like, oh, I know that story. I know that story. I know that because I had taught them for so years, and I never realized, like, when you teach, you learn. You're learning as well as the students.
Yeah, actually that's one of the greatest secrets that people don't realize is like the trick to actually learning and understanding is teaching what you learn because then it's like when you can communicate it to somebody else in a way that they actually get it, that's
Mhm.
when you've actually absorbed the material
Yeah.
yourself.
And I like to teach things I don't even know that things that well about. It's like, because it's not, it's like, all right, let me show you how to do this. And teaching somebody else, I'm like, oh, wait, that's not it. Let me figure it out. Yeah, okay, this is it. So you're learning by teaching.
Yeah. And
And
you'll go the extra mile to make sure that you know what you're talking about so that they can get good like
exactly.
good training, right? Yeah, definitely. Well, that's one of the reasons people are like, Amy, why are you so smart? Why do you know all these things? Well, it's because I needed to help people fill in gaps. And when I was a kid, also, I used to be a peer tutor right from probably as early as I could remember. I used to practice teaching, like even with my stuffed animals.
Yep. Yeah, I was always, my friends always wanted to play house, and I always wanted to play school. So,
Well, we did all of it. I always wanted to play anything and everything, and I still do. Like
exactly.
a game? Okay, what is it? Have you seen Coraline?
No.
Okay, so the other mother in Coraline, she's like this creepy. Um, well, you have to see the movie. Anyways, there's a part where they want to trick her, and it's like, well, she likes games. Okay, so that would have been me. Like let's just trick Amy by playing a game, make it fun. That is not for anybody who's really watching this who feels like manipulating or tricking me. That's not very nice. Don't do that. So, yeah, good times. So, what are your biggest goals now? And where do you see yourself in like 10 years?
Yeah, well, right now it's to for the publishing company to our goal this year is to publish 25 books.
Hmm.
Um, right now we've got 2 that we've done so far, and we have 5 coming up in the next 6 weeks. Um, we have a couple of solo book projects that we're working on. We have 5 or 6 more in the hopper that we're still looking for authors for. So if anyone's interested in being part of a collaboration book, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it. So yeah, actiontakerspublishing.com. You go there. Down at the bottom, there's a button there to connect with me. You can hop on a call or just check out all the different stuff we have going on right there. And if you want to follow me on any my social media, you go to findsally.com and you can connect with me. All my social media links, Instagram, Facebook, are all posted there.
Suddenly I'm in my head thinking all I want to do is drive around Sally Rawhide. So super fun, super fun. So that sounds like really big, lofty goals. Do you have mentors or coaches or anything for this?
Well, I work with Linda Sunshine West, and she's the CEO of the company, and her and I run the business together. We've been doing this for the last year and a half. And we do have we have people that we're working with that are helping us. So we have a team, and then actually she has coaches, and then I have coaches. So it's been it's good. It's fun.
Yeah, it sounds like you have like the right people in the right places. I know, like, I've known Linda for a long time, and I know in the beginning when she started this journey, it was really hard for her. It was
Yeah.
really, really hard. I remember her being like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's like a lot of work. It's way more work than I thought it was going to be in the beginning. And she was stressed out, but like over time, she seems to have put the team together. She's kept with it. She's made it like she's so much more chill too. Like,
Yeah, and I think I kind of, when her and I started partnering together, well, see, she was putting these collaboration books together, and she was kind of just doing it for fun. She had a group that she was doing, and she asked me to be part of the group, part of the book, and so I joined the 2 books that she was part of, and her and I were talking one day, and I said, "You seem a little stressed." I said, "Do you think I could, do you need some help with any of this stuff?" She's like, "Yeah, I could really use some help." So, I was like, I can help you with the website. I'm really good at the website. I can maybe do some of the marketing materials. I can go onto Canva and create some marketing materials. If you want me to talk to some of the authors, if they're struggling with stuff, I can talk to some of the authors. So I was just kind of just doing this stuff, only because she was my friend. I had, met her, and I just didn't want her to be stressed. So, after we launched the 2 books launched 8 days apart. They both became international best-selling books. And about a week later, I got a phone call from her, and she said, "I love working with you. I love doing the publishing. Do you want to do it together as a business and be my business partner?" And I was like, "Yes, let's go. Let's do it."
yes, no hesitation.
I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So her and I started, it was like October of 2021. We started putting our business plan together. We took 2 or 3 months. We published our first book in February of 2022.
Mm.
We've done 13 books so far.
Yeah. So did you read Rocket Fuel? Like, would you say she's the visionary and you're the integrator? And like, once you guys had that, it's like,
I think so. I think, yeah, I think, once I came on, it was like, okay, let's get serious. And so, we call us our little work parties where we get on our Zoom call, and we just work through whatever what are you working on? I'm working on this, you're working on this, and we are able to, go back and forth and make sure that we're getting stuff done. But I think that she needed me as much as I needed her.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
And
Definitely.
so it just clicked.
Yeah. And that's one other thing that I want to say to people is like, there are going to be times where you're working on a project and it's like, or your business, and it's just like things are not working. At some point, like allow yourself to have this natural solution come, because it will come, and you never know what shape or form it's going to come in. This time it was like you guys, you were friends and you just wanted to make a difference for her. I recently had a friend who just wanted to make a difference for me, and she's coming in to help me and support me in that area. And it's lovely just to have that person who has different skills. And it's really great. So congratulations on that, Sally.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what's nice about it, because she'll call me, she'll say, I'm thinking about doing this, and we both have that squirrel brain, where we start, get on a tangent, and we'll start working, and we're like, all right, we're gonna get this, we're gonna do work on this today, and both of us will get into a conversation, or we'll go off in a totally different direction, and like an hour later, we're like, wait, we're what were we working on, you know? But we both have that, that kind of quirky sense of humor and fun, so it works. It works.
That's good. That's good. You need that kind of person that you can like totally be yourself with too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because then you can be like really focused with your business, but then also just be like able to let loose, so you don't feel like you have to be a certain way. It's
Yeah.
very refreshing. Yeah. So you
And
must meet a lot of people through this initiative, these book collaborations. Is there anybody that you would like to meet that you haven't, like somebody who either to interview, to be part of your books, to get on their stage? Like, is there anybody that you would
well,
love?
I'll tell you, the person who started all of this for me was Forbes Riley.
Oh, I know who. Yeah, I know Forms
Yeah.
well.
And uh I've spoken with her like on the phone. I've been in Zoom rooms with her, but I've never met her personally.
Right.
Um, and she's, she kind of, that was the very first book that I was in, was the book that she was part of.
Nice.
So she's the one who invited me to be part of that book. Um, and so she kind of got this all started. So she's someone I would love to someday meet in person and have a real conversation with.
Yeah, I think that's a very set upable. I mean, Forbes is
Yeah.
obviously very busy, and she's very well known, very well connected. Um, but she's also, from everyone that I've talked to her a few times in Zoom stuff, but she seems fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that she's the catalyst for everything you have going on now. I mean, I don't see why she would not want that acknowledgement and that thank you, and you know, so it's just when.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And just figuring it out. Well, it's funny because I had never flown in. Hadn't flown in 26 years. I mean, we live here in Connecticut, and on summer vacations we'd drive up to Vermont or we'd go to Massachusetts. So it'd be just like around here. So we didn't have a lot of money to go on a vacations and stuff. So there was no reason for me to fly anywhere. I didn't have family outside of all my family is right local. So when I started this. Linda's in California and I'm in Connecticut. So it was last November. She was asked to speak at an event in Vegas, and she said, do you want to come to Vegas and hear me speak? And I was like, yeah. She's like, all right, well, let's get you a ticket and get you out here, because she was getting a room and an Airbnb. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So I flew out to meet her. And that was the first time I had ever met her in person. Was in Vegas just last November. So it was first time I had ever flown alone. First time I had been on a plane in 20 something years. And so this has been a lot of like me stepping out of my comfort zone and doing things that I haven't done in a very long time.
Yeah. Now, are you in a relationship, or are you single, or?
No, I'm married. I've been married 38 years.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. So that's another thing. I like to take little lessons people give, but it's like in a relationship, you can get really used to like routine and making changes, like changing your whole eating and changing, like turning off the TV, going through these things. That's sometimes challenging when you've got a relationship, because the other person has certain habits too.
Right. And my husband, he's listening. My husband doesn't like change. He likes things, he likes his routines and he likes things. So it's, and I'm the one that, that's always, stepping outside the comfort zone and doing things different. And let's do this a different way, but it,
I can relate to that. Yeah. No, that's super good though. Like the fact that you did that. And I know that that's a challenge. That's something that holds a lot of people back, is being in a relationship with somebody that they don't see how they can step outside of their selves to grow, because somebody else, it doesn't have to be a partner. It could be a friend. It could be a kid. It could be roommates.
right.
Yeah. So, what would your advice be to somebody who is in any kind of relationship where they want to develop themselves, make some changes in their life, but they feel like they're being held back by somebody else?
Well, the key is number one, communication with the other person and being able to talk to them and being able to be yourself with them, and being comfortable in yourself, and yeah, and having a sense of humor and being able to pivot and change, and being able to, to be the bigger person, and even when you're wrong, saying you're not. So,
Yeah.
and just, and just being kind, and being, you can't, what was it, Wayne Dyer said, you can't give what you don't have,
Mhm.
so if you don't love yourself, you can't give love to somebody else. So the thing is, you need to start with loving you, loving who you are, because you're not going to be able to give love to anybody if you don't love yourself first.
What if you don't know how to love yourself?
You got to figure it out. Got to
Do
figure it out.
you have any advice for figuring it out?
Huge. Yeah. I mean, reach out to me. I'm that's, kind of what I'm doing now, is trying to, is helping people do that, is to, find that self-love, that whole self-care rock star thing. And it's taking those small little steps, doing small little habits. It doesn't need to be a huge change all at once, because a lot of people think, all right, I got to make this huge change in my life. No, it's just taking a small step today.
Mhm.
And it's like those two boats that are headed for the same exact place, and this one just takes a little tiny move right here. It doesn't seem like much, but as they get further and further, they're going to get further and further away, and
Mhm.
you're going to get more towards your destination, knowing exactly where you want to go, and just steering your boat in that direction.
Yeah. And for people who don't know where they want to go yet, that's fine too. That's a space like say that you're in a space that you don't really love yourself and you don't really like yourself and you're dealing with some stuff. It's okay to not know where you want to go. It's
Right.
okay. Just like one step at a
Know
time.
know what you don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what you don't want, you can figure out what you want.
Smart,
You-
smart. Yeah. And if you do that one little thing, like 1%, just to make yourself feel a little better, go towards something that does make you a little happier
Right.
over time, that builds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So before we close out the show, there's a couple questions I have for you. Okay. So
Okay.
first off, if you had one single word anywhere in the alphabet from A to Z, or Z in the States, um, what would it be to bring happiness and success to people and their families?
Um, I would say gratitude,
And why did you choose gratitude?
because I think that being grateful for it helps you to, number one, be present, and helps you to have that mindfulness, being grateful for what you have, and looking at what you have as opposed to what you don't have.
Nice. Nice.
So
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to talk about a couple of quick things, and then I'm going to ask you like two more questions, and we're done. Okay. Okay.
nice.
So I don't know if you've ever heard about the Creative Collaboration Summit, but it's something that we do to bring people together so they can contribute to each other. And this is brilliant for not just authors, like you've got authors, but it's like anybody working on any kind of project, whether it's business, personal, professional, passion. This is where people can come 3 hours once a month to have people just listen to them and see where they can support each other. Okay. It's super fun. It's like speed dating for your projects. And you can find that at wheredreamsconnect.com. If anyone wants to reach out or find out more about how I can help their companies right? And the employees and the families. Like I like to work with the entire organization. It's harmonichabits.com. And if anybody wants to connect with me and see some of the crazy things that I do, lots of fun, it's amythompson.vip. Awesome. So yeah, what would one thing that you would like to do, like what is one thing that you would like to say? Maybe a question that I haven't asked yet, but something that you would like to end off this interview.
Well, the thing is, I think it's just it's so important for especially women to start taking care of themselves and to be a beacon of light for others. And I think that um, you're not to pour into yourself. And one of the things that I learned very early on when I first started this journey, I heard Les Brown speak. If anyone knows Les Brown, the motivational speaker, he's amazing. Find him, listen to some of his stuff. But one of the things that he said that really changed things for me was to pour into yourself and keep your cup filled to overflowing, and only give to the people from the overflow. Constantly keep your cup filled. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong all these years, because I've been giving and giving and giving until my cup was empty or almost empty. And then just, giving to myself enough to fill it up. And then, so that, that concept of giving enough to myself to where it's overflowing and giving to people from the overflow really changed things for me.
Yeah, I've never even heard that before. And that is, I've been guilty myself of giving, and then being depleted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's so funny. I had a shift just last week where I was like, no, from now on, I have I'm taking weekends off. I'm working a specific number of days a week. I'm taking a week off a month, and I'll get all my filming done in that time, and so I've now changed my life so that I can have that time to be in my comfort and my genius zone, which is really like I'm an intuitive. I need to have time away from everybody to be in that space, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Awesome, Sally Green. It was lovely to have you here. I'm so glad, and thank you for being part of Harmonic Habits. You've made a big difference for our viewers.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.